Alright guys, so what we're getting into in today's computer art tutorial is creating a desert scene with a little pyramid action, some layers of sand kind of getting darker in the distance, and then a nice kind of swirled up background. So let's go ahead and jump in to get started with this. So I'll toggle back to home, we'll click create new, go full HD, and we will type in DESERT scape and get started creating our desert scape. So first thing I'm going to need to call up here is an image of sand. So just going to do a quick Google image search of sand and see what I find as far as sand textures here. So ideally, make sure you find something that doesn't have some kind of protective stamps on it. This should work though. Nice kind of perspective point of view that I can work with this sand. And so I'm just going to go ahead and copy this image and paste it into Pixlr. And let's back up out a little bit. I'm going to take this and click and drag to expand it. Click and drag to expand it up. That one a little bit big. But yeah, so it doesn't have to go all the way to the top of the page because we only need it to cover, a little bit at the very bottom of the page. So we will need two of these layers, so I'm going to go ahead and actually just duplicate this layer to start. Alright, maybe I will make this, this top one invisible for now, and maybe just work on the back one to start. So this one is the one that's going to be further in back. Alright, so it actually may be easier to work on the front one and then the back one. Alright, so front one. So I made the back one, the bottom one here, invisible. Front one, or the top one, is visible. So we're going to do a little cutout action here. So I'm just going to use the cutout mask tool and going to use the lasso mask option and go to remove from mask as that there. So going to go ahead and just kind of do kind of like a wavy sort of like a zigzag, not a zigzag, but just kind of wavy curved line that goes around, and I'm just going to choose what part of that I want to cut. Oh, I had the wrong layer selected. Still did the effect though. So top layer selected. Again, go ahead and just kind of make like sort of a curved wavy line that goes along there and then cuts that down. So it just makes that part disappear. And the nice thing about the lasso mask is I can always switch this to add and bring back stuff later. So let's go ahead and now make this back layer visible. And this one, I'm actually going to turn the brightness down. So I can go to brightness contrast. I can turn the brightness of it down a little bit so that that layer behind it, I can actually see, the difference between the front forward layer and the background layer. And I'm just going to do the same kind of thing with this background layer. So again, cutout tool, lasso mask, and I'm just going to go kind of along the top here and kind of cut out that part of it. Didn't want to do it that time. Let's switch up tools. Sometimes you got to kind of switch back and forth between your tools. Might get kind of caught. Oops, now I'm on add. Remove is what I want to do. I actually kind of wanted this to go a little bit lower than I had it in the first time. Let's see. There we go. That's better. So now I got my two layers of sand, and then I got room in the back for my background. So I do have still this open layer 1, so I'll just go ahead and add my background on there. I'm going to use a gradient. So go ahead and choose any gradient you want, or you can create your own gradient. I'm kind of going to take one with a lot of colors. I think this one was the one that I used before. Again, you can always add more colors to your gradient if you kind of click just below the gradient line here, and you can change the color of each of them in the bar over here. So maybe I want this to have like a teal blue or something, teal greenish blue somewhere in there. So now it has that in there as well, and I can move and space these out a little bit too. So have some fun, create a gradient or use one that's pre-existing. I'm going to just click out here to get this going, and I'm just going to click like just below the sand area and then click and drag up top to kind of fill that in. So if I want to see more of that first color, I'll have to kind of make this go just above it. There we go. That looks pretty good. So I got all the colors in there, and now we're gonna have some fun with the blur tool. So blur, smudge, sharpen tool. Um, we can do blur or smudge. I think smudge is actually what I want to go with. Let's make this brush size up. Let's put it up, up, up. 5 might be a little too high. Let's come down maybe somewhere in the middle, around 200 maybe. Yeah, that seems good. So with the smudge option on, you can mess with strength too, but I don't know that I'm going to need too much. Looks like 40 as the strength works pretty good. And I'm just going to kind of have some fun here with making like a design that kind of blurs and smudge together some of these gradient type shapes. So kind of just have some fun with it. Kind of looks like kind of colorful flames, like a aurora borealis type effect going on with my background. So go ahead and kind of have some fun, kind of experiment and smudge and blend that up until you get a pretty good look to your background. All right, so that is looking pretty good, pretty fire there with the background. And now we want to add in our pyramid that we're going to draw. So we will take the lasso tool. I'm going to take my polygon lasso tool and get this pyramid started. So I'm going to want to add a fresh layer, an empty layer here for the pyramid. This will want to be all the way on top because it's going to be the closest thing to us. And I'm going to just start with one click, then kind of bring my mouse out, click again, bring my mouse down a little bit here, click again, and then go straight up. So this is the key here, is you want this this line here, this middle part of your pyramid to be pretty much straight up and down. Now you can always adjust it later, but make it go straight up and down would be good. So paint bucket, I'm going to choose a color to fill it. I'm going to take like a tannish brownish color. Let's see, so not too dark, but not too light. I want to make sure that it's a little bit different from the sand. All right, so that works out pretty good. And the sand is very realistic texture, so this being, filled in with your draw tool is going to, or with your paint bucket, is going to make it stand out a little bit on its own. We're going to give it a little bit of texture as well. And so let's go ahead to the filter menu, and I think the texture that we were going to give it is in details actually, and we are going to give it a grain. Right, so we're going to go to grain here, and let's just turn this up to 100. So you can see it just gives it a little bit of a kind of subtle texture to it, just so it's not perfectly flat, color from the paint bucket. And then I'm actually going to take this layer and duplicate it. So I can hit Command D to deselect, and then take this layer and do another duplicate. So I have an exact copy of that layer. Pull it, drag it so you can see it's two separate things. And then I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, and flip this horizontally. All right, and then try to line it up with my other one. So it actually looks like I did a pretty good job. And I'm just going to nudge it now with my arrow keys a couple times. Looks like I did a pretty good job of getting these pretty straight. Might rotate it just a little bit. Maybe I'll just kiss them together a little bit more with that tool. Another good way to check this, that you can see that they're actually together, is to make this darker as well. So I'm going to go, I got to click this one, go Adjustment, Brightness, Contrast, and I'm going to turn the brightness down of this one as well. Kind of just want to give it a little more dimension. So turning that down makes this look like it's a shadowed side. So that looks pretty good. Really last step is going to be to draw a shadow layer. If you want to merge these two sides of your pyramid together, that's not a bad idea to merge down. So now they're together in one layer. And if you want to move this or copy it, you can do that and add another period maybe off in the distance. So if I wanted to actually duplicate this again, I could make another pyramid. So that's a duplicate, and then just squish it to kind of put it off in the distance, and then I can have another pyramid that's kind of further back, in the distance, and a little bit smaller because it's a little bit further away from us, right? And I could also go to turn brightness, contrast down again, because maybe this one that's further back is kind of a little bit darker because it's a little bit further away, right? So like I said, last thing we're going to do is add in a shadow layer. So let's add in a new layer here. On this one, we're going to draw a couple of these shadows to go with our pyramids. Just kind of one last detail we're going to add here. So I'm just going to make, click once here to make a couple of these shadow shapes. So there's one shadow shape, and then I'll fill it in black. So I'll take my color picker, choose the quick black right there, fill that in solid black for now. I will come back to it though. I'm going to hit, I want to hit Command D, to get rid of my selection, and then make another one for my other pyramid. This one's going to kind of go off the page, which is fine. Alright, another one, and we'll fill that in as well. And then the last thing I'm going to do is turn down the transparency. So Command D to deselect. And then, so with this layer with the shadows on it, I'm going to turn down the opacity or the transparency so that I can see that sand texture kind of coming through. Alright, so I may have to adjust this shadow a little bit. They are both on the same layer, so it makes it a little tricky to adjust them individually. I could maybe change that up if I wanted to, but I just kind of nudged it a little bit with my arrow tool to get it so that there wasn't a little white space in between there. So otherwise, though, this is looking pretty much good and complete as we were trying to get. So got a little desert kind of scape scene here with a few layers of some textured sand. You got a nice blurred up background and a few pyramids. So hope you guys have fun with this little scape scene assignment, and hope you have a good time creating your own scenes.